game on the line. You can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
Yo, Headliner Nation, what is going on? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and I have got one fire video for you today that we're going to take a look at the riskiest players at every position. Jake, a couple of weeks ago, did the safest players at every position, so I decided to go against that and talk about the riskiest players at each position to help you make your fantasy football decisions here in 2021. Before we jump into that info, though, just a reminder, we promised to give a draft guide away in our tight end rankings video if we hit 1,000 likes, and we did exactly that. So our winner for the draft guide is Brian Melendez. Brian, make sure you leave a comment down below for me. Let me know, hey, I'm the draft guide winner. I'll keep an eye out on that, and we will make sure that we get you the information that you need to get your free 2021 fantasy football draft guide. And I also appreciate the comment as well, because it was this comment that led me to taking a look at the video I just did, Tough Draft Day Decisions, talking about Travis Kelce and where his value stands in the first round, guys in the second round, and then ultimately TJ Hawkinson. So we appreciate that. Like we said, we always take feedback from our community. We always listen to all of you out there. And when we see a comment like this, it strikes some interest in our mind, we run with it. So Brian, appreciate that comment. Let us know down in the comments below that you're watching so we can get you that free draft guide. And also just want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Fantrax real quick and remind all of you to go to fantrax.com/headliners, create a free account, and jump into our best ball challenge with a $1,000 cash prize, ladies and gentlemen. That is right, $1,000 cash prize for that best ball challenge. So 100% you want to make sure you do that. And we might also have the biggest giveaway that we have ever done. But the only way you're eligible is by creating a fantrax.com/headliners account. So you can get a little bit of an early jump on that, and we'll start letting you all know very soon what that gigantic giveaway is going to be. But ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about the riskiest players at each position. And Jake went through and did a lot of deep diving statistics to try and find who is going to be the safest player at each position. So I decided to go a different route and find the riskiest player. And I too went into a little bit of a deep dive trying to figure out what's the best way to make this call. Now, as with everything we do here, we give you the information to ultimately make a decision. Everything that we're saying here, yes, is going to help you, but it's not just set in stone, oh, this is the guy. There's also things that we have to take into consideration because we're going off 2020 stats and things have changed for some people in 2021. So you got to look at the stats, look at the information. You also have to think in your mind what has changed. Is that good or bad for the player? And then ultimately make the decision based on all that. But let's talk about risk score, something that I kind of put together here. I've been working on for the last week or so, and I think we may have found something that's really going to help us maybe determine who or who isn't going to be a risky player. Now, looking at what risk score is, okay, what I did is I deep dive into where each player finished last season. So, for instance, every time you finished a game inside the top 12 at your position, you got a point. Okay, easy enough, right? Every time you finished in the top 24, or as you would say, finished anywhere between number 13 and 24 at the position, you'd get 2 points for each game. You'd get 3 points for each game in the top 36, so 25 to 36. And then anything outside the top 36, if you finish 37 or lower, you got 5 points, all right? Because that's really where we are going to basically, give people the biggest drawback, right? Like if you're finishing that low, we've got some issues there. So you get more points for that. So then I took that and I added up all of the total points. But when I looked at it, I'm like, that's not fair, because you look at a guy like Michael Thomas, who only played in 7 games. Well, of course, he's going to have far less points than a DK Metcalf, who played in 16 games, right? So you can't just go off total points. So what I did is I took total points and I divided it by games played. The lower your score, the lower the risk. So let's take a look at that information, and let's take a look at where everybody finished, transitioning over to that screen. So here we go. We've got all of our players, our top 36 wide receivers, listed in order of their current ADP. Now again, this is not my rankings. This is ADP that is pulled from multiple sites across the fantasy football landscape. So we don't just look at one site. We pull from sites all across the landscape to get our ADP. So that gives us a really good view of where people are at. So we've got our ADP in column A. We've got our player in column B. Column C is going to be our games. And then that is when we get into how many games did you finish as a top 12? How many games did you finish as a top 24? Top 36, and then how many games outside the top 36. So as you can see here, basically everybody had games outside the top 36. And I found some really interesting things between wide receivers and running backs. And I'm just going to tease this real quick. It's going to be a pretty big video later on that's really going to help solidify why taking a running back is always going to be much safer than a wide receiver. So don't worry, we're not talking about that right now, but that is going to be in a later video. I think I have found some really, really good stuff. I'm going to tease that right now. But let's talk about it, all right? So we've got Tyreek Hill here. You know, our top wide receivers are really the guys that, you know, are reducing the risk in terms of finishing more towards the top 12. But with wide receivers, we've got a lot of games where they're going to finish outside of that, and that happens because we have so many wide receivers. You know, one thing I did find interesting is that we go down to DeAndre Hopkins. He had 7 games in the top 12, but he also had 7 games outside the top 36 last season. This is all based on half PPR scoring. So he had a very wide variable last year in terms of where he finished. As you keep scrolling down, you're going to see something like Justin Jefferson. Like you see 6 games outside the top 36. Well, Justin Jefferson, you know, didn't take off until a few games into the season. So, of course, there was, you know, that issue where he wasn't finishing. And that's why you have to think about that. You know, Michael Thomas dealt with the injury last year, then missed some time with Drew Brees. So that probably brought some of those things down. If you keep going down here, like Julio Jones, obviously only played 9 games last season. And one of the reasons that I really needed to make sure that we didn't just take total points and then we found some way to kind of level that off. A guy like CeeDee Lamb, you know, rookie year. Yeah, you're going to have a few probably lower top tier finishes, just the way Justin Jefferson did, right? Justin Jefferson had some outside the top 36, but again, took a while to maybe get going, had an injury at quarterback. Obviously, the offensive line wasn't as great as it could have been. So there's other factors that we have to consider when we're going through all of these names and determining where these guys are falling. Now, going down, Jamar Chase is the only rookie within the top 36 wide receivers currently. Now, that could change the closer we get to the season, but as of right now, he's the only one. So, of course, we're going to be going with NA here, right? He doesn't have any stats from last year. What I do want to do, though, real quick, is I am going to highlight everything because I want to take a look at how many people finished inside the top 12. So let's kind of break that down real quick. Let's go ahead and sort our range. We're going to go by column D, A to Z. Or no, we want to go Z to A because we want the most. Boom. And there we go. So we've got that switched over there. So we've got, again, Jamar Chase, it's coming up top because of NA. But Devontae Adams, he led the way last year with 8 finishes inside the top 12. And then Hill, Hopkins, and A.J. Brown were all tied with 3 at 7. Adam Thielen comes in next with 6. Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Allen Robinson all tied with 5. And then it kind of goes down from there. And you come down here, Michael Thomas didn't have one. Kenny Golladay did not have one either. Robbie Anderson didn't have one as well. So that's kind of interesting to see there because a lot of people are like, oh, I really, really want Robbie Anderson over DJ Moore later on. We're going to see here that these two might be a little bit closer than what some people expected, but there's that, and I want to make sure we're not messing up any information, so we're just going to undo it right there. Let's go back and resort. Let's take a look at outside. Let's take a look at the players who finished with the most games outside of the top 36. So let's go ahead and sort our range once again, and this time we're going to go by column G. Let's go down here to column G. Boom. Okay, so now we've got Tyler Lockett leading the way with 10 games, finishing outside the top 36, which is crazy to think because the dude ended up finishing as a wide receiver 1 on the low side at the end of the season, but there were still 10 games last season when he was outside the top 36. And that's really important to look at because that is a very, very wide range of variables, ladies and gentlemen. And then after that, you've got CeeDee Lamb, Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy. Interesting to see a lot of rookies right there. Jerry Jeudy being a rookie last year. Higgins was a rookie. Claypool was a rookie. CeeDee Lamb was a rookie. So it's really interesting to see those rookies finish even higher up than what some of these other guys are. And then, of course, you've got DJ Chark right here in the middle with 8. And then Hopkins comes in at number 7, which for being a top-tier wide receiver, I don't think anybody even considers how many times he finished outside the top 36 last year. Now, to be fair, at the end of the season, when you go and you look at what DeAndre Hopkins did, again, Kyler Murray was on fire to start the season, but then he comes down with that shoulder injury, and that was a big deal. That really bothered Kyler Murray, his running ability and throwing the ball. If you separate those stats from before he was hurt to after he was hurt, Kyler Murray was absolutely on fire to start the season, but recency bias is getting a lot of people right now, and they're not looking at it. So these 7 games right here for DeAndre Hopkins aren't necessarily as concerning to me as maybe somebody else because there were issues towards the end of the season with Kyler Murray being hurt. But you do have to think too, they've added AJ Green, they've added Rondale Moore. What's the passing game going to look like this year? I mean, Hopkins is probably still going to be the number 1 target, but does he see a few of those targets go away because of the other guys that they have on the roster right now? It's a possibility. Now, going down here, Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill, they're 2 guys right now that are at the very top of the stratosphere of draft picks right now, right? Both of these guys going late first round, and good reason why. Only twice did these 2 finish outside of the top 36. So that's absolutely excellent to know. And even though Stephon Diggs was only inside the top 12 5 times, he was pretty consistent across the board, not finishing too low. So you were winning a lot of weeks because you weren't losing a ton of points from Stephon Diggs to other people. Whereas let's go up here a little bit, like 2.11 with AJ Brown, he's got 2 more. Justin Jefferson, we already talked about it. He had 6. Hopkins had 7. So Stephon Diggs, just by looking at those, appears to be a little bit safer than what the other guys might. So let's go ahead and undo this again, because what I want to do here now is let's go ahead and take a look at the score. So we're going to pop open everything here. And again, this is all going off just our ADP right now. So let's go ahead, and I want to sort this by total points first. We're going to sort this by total points, and then we will talk about the risk score at the very end. So let's go total points to begin with. And obviously here, you see it, okay? A lot of the guys that are scoring with the top points, had more points. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to redo it, because as you go down, you see down here, like Chris Godwin, he kind of falls right in the middle, but his points would have been far lower because he played in only 12 games. And then like Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Deebo Samuel, these guys down here are all becoming guys that when you take a look at, they would have had far less points, so they would have looked a lot better than what their actual risk score comes out to be. So I'm going to undo this one more time, and then now let's go in, let's sort the range. We're going to go lowest score. Remember, the lower the score, the better the player, the less risk the player holds. And there we go. That is what we have for you, ladies and gentlemen, as far as risk score this year. Tyreek Hill leads the way with a 2.06, and Devontae Adams comes in right behind him with a 2.07. I don't think anybody is caught off guard by that, right? No, they're not. Stephon Diggs with a 2.31. But then we get to Will Fuller, all right? This one is insane because we know Will Fuller brings risk in terms of his injury history and missing games, right? He has one of the worst injury profiles at the position, always has, always will, all right? And then last year, he's finally healthy, but boom, he's popped for PEDs, okay? And then now he's in a new system with a new quarterback in a new town, playing in Miami now with Tua. What is that going to bring? So it's interesting to look at this because Will Fuller, when he is on the field, he is one of the least risky wide receivers in terms of our risk score here because of just how well he has performed when healthy. So again, is he risky in a sense of, yeah, he could get hurt at any time? He's not risky in a sense of if this guy is on the field, this guy performs, okay? And some of us draft differently. Like we look at some of these injury-prone players and we're like, oh, no, wait, why did I say that? I don't like injury-prone. We look at some of these players with a poor injury profile. That's what I like there. And we tend to stay away from them because we're too scared we're going to be missing them. But some people are like, this is a gamble, ladies and gentlemen. We are playing in a league to win it. We're not playing in a league to finish in third or fourth. I want the best players on any given week. And right now you're getting Will Fuller at the 8.02. He can end up being one of the better steals in drafts this year because, again, when he's on the field, he performs. A lot's going to depend on Tua. Can he develop into a guy that can push the ball down the field? Absolutely. That's going to matter a lot. Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, a lot of these guys coming in here. One thing I want to highlight, DeAndre Hopkins. He's probably got one of the lower scores for being as high as he is at the 2.04. And again, it goes back to those games outside the top 36. 7 games outside the top 36 in half PPR scoring last year, which really drove his score down. If he would have just taken, 3 or 4 of those games to finish as a top 36, he's probably bumping up quite a bit. So when you look at that, again, that's why we have to kind of separate, we have a score. This is helping us see something and starting to paint a picture, but this doesn't paint the whole picture. Because now you have to remember, well, Kyler Murray was hurt. So if Kyler Murray wasn't hurt, how much farther does he end up scoring up? Do we go down and do we break down how many games did he finish in the top 12 when Murray was, healthy? And then how many outside? And then drive the score from that? Yeah, absolutely. Those are definitely things we can do. And that's why diving deep into these stats is so much fun, Headliner Nation, because you can paint all these different pictures, but a lot of people use stats to trick you as well. Twitter is notorious for it. And that's why one of the reasons I don't really post stuff on Twitter anymore in terms of fantasy content. It's more for fun and interacting and things like that. But people all the time, analysts out there, will take just this little bit of information, they'll throw it on Twitter and they'll be like, oh, do with it what you will. I hate that. Hate that now. I was guilty of it a little bit back when I first got started, but as I learned more about the industry and I became deeper and deeper entrenched in it, that's not the way to go, because you do stuff like that, people just follow it blindly, and then they get screwed at the end of the year because you don't give context. That's why we like to show these videos where we dive deep, give you context, talk about it, but also say at the same time, this is not just the thing to tell you what to do. This is the thing to help you paint the picture. And when you paint pictures, not everybody paints with one color, right? Okay. Back when you were in art school, okay, or in kindergarten or elementary school or whatever, and you went to art class, did you pick out one color and paint with it? No, we were there putting the colors together, mixing them, trying to get as much as we can, fighting with our classmates like, dude, you got red. I got to get red for a little bit now. You've had it the entire freaking time. Get it over here. All right. See, that's why a picture, the best pictures in the world, have tons of color. They're vibrant, all those things. It's the same way with fantasy football stats. We got to take everything to paint this picture, right? We can't just do one thing because then it's a bland picture. We don't want that. We're not hanging that up on the fridge. My kid brings me that, crumple it up, throw it in the trash. Listen, kid, I love you. That's garbage. Get out there. You're better than that. All right. There's my soapbox for the day. Loved it. But listen, okay, that's why when we look at these scores here, we see a lot of really good information. And that's why for Tyler Lockett, I wrote about him in depth in the draft guide, because people are like, oh, I want those games in which he goes off. I get that, and I love Tyler Lockett. I loved him coming out of college. I thought he was going to be a really good player, and he has so far. And yeah, he might finish the season as a wide receiver 1, but boy, are you going to have a ton of headaches along the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to screenshot this real quick, take a picture, whatever you need to do so you have this information. Keep coming back to it. Again, we've got all the columns here in which they finished at their position. We have their total score here and their risk score as well. And a lot, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, but we're now 20 minutes into the video, and we don't like these to go too super long. But you can see here, again, this is where kind of the risk comes into play. But as you're looking through this risk score and trying to determine it, you know, take a look at what are the outlying factors around him. Like DJ Chark. I know Jake likes DJ Chark this year. I like Marvin Jones a little bit more. This risk score for me here, it's not great, but again, you have to look at the picture from last season. DJ Chark might not be a wide receiver one, okay? He might not be able to be fantasy viable on a weekly basis as the guy in Jacksonville, but now that he has Marvin Jones, and now that we've got Gardner Minshew up to Trevor Lawrence, this could change dramatically this year. So that's one of the reasons why, hey, you take a look at this and you realize there might be a little bit of risk when drafting DJ Chark, but now that his situation has changed, maybe this score now starts to creep up a little bit, and now we put him more up in this area instead of all the way down. Anybody else here to talk about real quick that I want to go through? You know, Robert Woods, considered to be one of the safer wide receivers, actually had the same exact score as Amari Cooper, which was really, really interesting because I love me some Bobby Trees and always Amari. Don't get me wrong. I like both of these guys. You know, Amari Cooper only finished twice inside the top 12. Robert Woods finished 4 times, but then when you go down top 24, the same. But then this is where Amari Cooper really made up a lot of ground on him. He finished top 36-7, where Woods finished 3, but then you come down to outside the top 36. Amari only finished there 4 times, while Robert Woods finished there 6 times. So that's one of those areas where you're really able to kind of gain perspective on as we go from wide receiver 1 all the way down, why some of these scores come out, and why maybe some guys aren't nearly as risky as they choose to be. And Juju coming in here with a 3. Oh, I've got a big Juju video coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely love him this year, and we'll talk more about that in another video. But ladies and gentlemen, hopefully this helped you out. Again, take a screenshot or whatever. Take this with you. Ask me comments down in the video below, so I know, you know, what you guys are thinking. What is it that you need to know more about the score and things like that? If you're a part of Patreon and you want to see more of this, let me know. If you own the draft guide and you want to see this, I'll talk to Taylor and I'll say, hey man, can we add a portion to the draft guide to put this in? He might hate me for it, trying to cause more work for him, but if Headliner Nation wants it, we can get it done. So if this is something you want in the draft guide, if you want to see this, let me know. I'll talk to Taylor and I'll figure out how quickly we can get that updated for you. And maybe we can get it out here in the next couple of weeks, next few weeks or whatever, after I have a chance to dive even deeper into the data for the last several years, and we can paint that picture for you. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be enough for this video. Hopefully I helped you all try to determine a little bit on some players that might be a little bit riskier for you in 2021. If you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, you absolutely have to hit that subscribe button and stick around. We're dropping just some amazing content right now. And if you look through the comments, I don't think Jake and I have ever seen as many positive comments, and we have seen quite a bit, we feel like, on this channel, as we have over the last couple of weeks. Y'all are amazing. You all are appreciating it. But listen, we appreciate you because we get to do this because of you. So thank you so much. Leave comments down below. Stick with the channel. Hit the like button. Like buttons always help these videos on YouTube, and we appreciate that. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Keep working on this because I got more videos to come out. All of you stay safe and stay healthy, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.